Hello everyone. Today I wanted to do a quick little sketchbook study of a flower. So this time of the year I take a lot of pictures of flowers and I sit outside on my patio and look at my beautiful pots and think, oh, I should paint that. And then when I start to do that, when I start to draw it out, it has in the past been a little bit difficult getting the, dimensions or whatever right. And so I'm going to take you through this little video and show you a really quick, simple way to draw a simple, basic flower. And the photo reference I'm using is from a flower on my patio in a pot that I have out there. And this beautiful little begonia just struck my eye. It's just simple, and I think it's going to be really easy for us to draw and then paint. So that's what I'm going to do in my sketchbook. I'm going to set this aside and show you what I'm working in. So I've got this Winsor Newton. It's a professional watercolor sketchbook. It's got 15 pages in it. It is 5x7 and it is 100% cotton. And I am very particular about the paper that I paint on, and oftentimes you either have a paper that is made of pulp or it's got cotton in it, but it's not 100% cotton. So the paper I'm used to painting on is 100% cotton. Usually use Arches. But this Winsor Newton is a great little sketchbook, and they have great paper as well. So that being said, I am going to open it up and show you a couple of little sketches I've done on my work break. I found that if I bring my paints to work with me and sit on my lunch, instead of playing games on my iPad, I can practice painting, and that's really important to do. So anytime I can find to paint, I try to do it. So I did a little tree study, the first little entry in this journal. The next page was just a doodle, slapping on the color and then kind of filling in. I used some salt from my break room and just sprinkled that for some texture. And then this is the flower that we're going to be painting. It's the begonia, and I'm going to take you through how I did this little drawing. The thing that I didn't do on here, which I regretted after I started, was I didn't tape it off, because I do like a clean edge. So that's what I'm going to do to start with. I've got a artist tape that is about a 1/2 inch, I guess. This is from Blick, and I'm just going to go around the edges and tape off so I have a nice clean edge when I'm finished. Okay, all done with that little part of it, which I love, because after you take it off, it does have that clean edge like I just mentioned, and it gives it a more finished look, and I like that in my sketchbook. So what I'm going to start with is, like I said, I'm working from my iPad. This photo is of a white begonia. And I'm going to start, what you want to do, just to make it really super simple, and this works great for small or big because you can adjust the size according to the size of the paper or watercolor paper or drawing sheet you're working on. So I'm just going to start a little off center and very lightly. This is a 0.5 twister. This is a Pentel. I really like it because it's got the eraser built in, and I can just really start with a very simple shape, which is, I'm not doing a real circular shape. I'm kind of giving it a little squiggle so I have something to kind of start with. And then I'm going to put I think I'll put it a little, you don't have to put it directly in the center like my picture shows, but I'm going to put it a little off center. And then from that point, this is where all your petals are coming from. So I'm just going to draw a line out to where, and you don't have to have them straight lines, you can have them have a little curve to them too. So I'm just going to do like a pinwheel, and then we're going to come on either side of that and draw a line. And you don't have to stay within that perimeter that you first drew, because we can erase that. So I'm going to come, actually I think I'll leave that side just as is and come up here, and then this, and over onto this side. I think I'll come up a little bit on that edge, and then back here will be just another petal, and then here and off onto the side of this. Again, I can come up, and then this one we can just do like we're overlapping. And then I'm going to come back, and here's the reason we want to keep those lines really light, is so you can come back and erase your original guideline. And then we can make adjustments after those are erased, and you can kind of see what your flower is going to look like. So there's a little bit of a space here. I can come up with another petal. And I could also come in here, do just adjust a little bit. And that's it. You're done. You've got a flower. And then this little picture's got a little flower in the background. It's a different type, but it's still a begonia. I'm just going to create a little ruffle. I think I'll come just right up to the edge of that tape and come. It does not have to be just like the photo. Just play around and create some interesting variations. And there's a couple little petals back under here, kind of overlapping or under the upper petals. And then we've got some leaves. So basically that is all we're going to do. I'm going to kind of lightly sketch in where I want those leaves to be. Just giving it a little jagged edge and paying attention to detail of the flower and of the leaves. Even though it doesn't have to be exactly what the picture shows, it should look like the leaf of the flower I'm painting. So I want it to have the characteristics of a begonia leaf. And then we're just going to fill in with color as we go. So there you have it. There's a very simple flower. Now let's get painting, the fun part. So that was really quick and easy, right? You could do that sitting on your patio. So the paints I'm going to be using for this little sketchbook painting of a begonia is my core. This is a little set I got not too long ago. It's the 12 tube introductory set. And it's got really fun bright colors in here that I've added to this palette over here. So let's take a look at that. Had that upside down. That's a cool palette too, actually. This little palette is a Meeden, and it's a 10 palette. It comes with, I think, let's see, there's 26 wells, I believe. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13, 26 wells. These pop right out, so you can move them around, or you can take them to your sink and clean them up if you want to start fresh with a new color. And in this, I don't have this covered, but this is a little travel brush that came with another paint palette, a Winsor & Newton paint palette, and it's about probably a number 2. And then one that I recently purchased that I'm really loving is this Aqua Elite Princeton, and it's a number 4. Nice tip on it. It holds a lot of paint and water, and it also has this little cap, hole on the top, and this one does too. That allows the air to get in there and dry your brush out so it doesn't get ruined. So those are the 2 brushes I'll start with on this little painting. And the colors here, I said I would mention them, are the core colors. A little bit of green in there, but this is a Hansa Yellow Light. This is Nicolazo Yellow, Yellow Ochre, Pyrrole Red, Alizarin Crimson, Quinacridone Magenta, Burnt Sienna. This didn't come with the set. I bought it later, but it's a Quinacridone Burnt Orange. Quinacridone Gold I also bought later. This Quinacridone Gold Deep came with the set. Phthalo Blue, Ultramarine Blue, Viridian, and Payne's Gray. So those are all the colors we're going to be using in this painting. I don't typically use a lot of Payne's Gray or Viridian, but I think I'll put that to use in this painting. So let's get started with the painting. Like I said, I'm going to start with my number 4 Princeton Elite, and I am going to start with the shadow colors for the most part on the flower. I also want to start, I want to add a little of the yellow here, the Hansa, to this flower that's behind. It's a little sunlit, so I'm going to just start by straight yellow, diluted of course, it's very diluted. And I'm going to leave some edges at the top that are light or white. And I think I'll add just a little bit to that little petal, and then I'll play around with that yellow a little bit later on in the painting. Okay, and also I picked up this little, I've had these before, this is a little Holbein spray bottle, watercolor spray bottle, and it's just a nice handy size. I'll just get my paints a little bit wet again. And I'm going to start with the phthalo blue. I have these arranged on this palette, going from cool on this end and getting warmer as I go up to the other end. So I've got my cool blue here. I'm going to add that Quinacridone Magenta to that and get a little more of the magenta on one side and more of the blue on the other, just so I can dip into it to vary the colors up as I go. And then I've got Burnt Sienna, and I'm going to add those 2 colors to my Burnt Sienna, and that's going to give me a more grayed down color. So there's my phthalo, and there's my magenta. It's already looking a little gray, maybe a little more blue in there. Very strong colors. These core colors are very strong, which I love because I love bold color. So it doesn't take much to get a good bold color. So that Burnt Sienna into that grays that down, and you can shift that to the red side by adding more red or more blue, phthalo blue, depending on what you want. So now I need to adjust that back. Okay, a little bit more grayed down color. Tip my board up a little bit. All right, so I'm going to start by just coming into the center. Actually, I've got the Hansa Yellow Light, which I really like, and I'm adding the Pyrrole Red to that, giving me a nice bright orange. And I've got dry paper here, and I'm leaving some little areas of white for sparkle. And then I want to drop in a little bit of a more diluted, watery bit of that Hansa yellow. And as that dries, I'll be coming back with more color. All right, so right away, I'm going to come in with a little bit more of the burnt sienna. It's going to be a little heavier on that. And then I'm going to just touch in my mixture of blue. And I like the way the yellow bleeds into the flower petal right in here. So then I just rinsed my brush and I'm softening these edges a little bit and bringing some of that color, pulling some of that color out into the petal. And then I can come back in here, touch in a little bit more of that orange. As it dries, you can add more color pretty easily, and it softens if it's at the right stage of drying. It's important to get used to the different stages. And then I'm going to come in. That's kind of cool right in here. I like that, but I do think I want to add just a little touch of the magenta. And darken some of that up a little bit, maybe. Not too concerned about it, but let's soften it up a little bit anyway. Okay, and then let's come over here, come along the edge. I'm using the tip of my brush. I don't have a ton of paint on there. It's fairly diluted. This stage, really you want to be more along the lines of a tea consistency of paint. And then you can work and get thicker as you go. As the painting progresses, you can thicken up those colors and darken the values. As in right there. Just a little bit thicker, softening some of these edges. Now I'm going to add some clear water and just come in and play around with dropping in some color. Kind of staying away from some of those edges so it gives it a lacy look. And let's drop in a little yellow for fun. I really actually like that part of the flower really well. I'm going to see if I can soften this up a little bit. A little bit bluer. I think I also want to go get some ultramarine and the quinacridone. That's going to give me just a slightly different purple. And the purple and the yellow are complementary colors, so that's going to add some pizzazz to that. And rinsed my brush, softening out some of the edges there. It's nice to have some that are soft and some that are harder edge. And I want to add a little shadow up in here. Soften and spread out some of that color. It's a little bit more in the shadow, that petal. And let's come over to the edge of this one. Just play around with leaving some light, leaving some white of the paper. And then I can add, while that's still wet, drop in a little bit more magenta and have it spread around. That's pretty. Down here, this is underneath, but it's got a little bit of a yellow tone to it. So I am just going to start out with a little bit of the blue and some of this grayed down color to push it back underneath. I don't want it standing out. Again, I'm thinking about leaving some of the edges because when I come in with the background color, it's going to help things to pop. It's going to help those edges to really stand out. That might be a little too dark there, but that was a good choice, I think, for color, because I want that underneath. And I'm going to soften it up a bit, spread some of that color. And I think over here, these guys, I want to add some yellow. Get some of that sunlit glow. How about let's do it in a couple of these spots too. Even though this wasn't a sunny day, I can give the illusion that it was. It's my visioneering is that this sun is hitting the white of the flowers, and that's why you see the warmer color. And you can play up the color in the white, which is one reason I really love painting white flowers, is because anything that's around can be reflected into that white. So you can really mess around with the color and make it what you want it to be. As in this, it doesn't have to be plain. One thing I want to encourage you too is practice using your brush, holding it down further on the handle. This is a way to keep it loose. If you're holding it up here, you're going to be very stiff and rigid. So hold it down to the end and see what happens. Try to paint your picture with your brush like that for the most of the painting, and just experiment with it. Add a little bit of more of the reddish to that. That's really pretty, and this is pretty thick. Okay, and then I think over here, let's do a little bit more of the ultramarine and burnt sienna. I'm gonna just tone that blue down and come in here. And that little guy didn't get too much attention, so I'm just gonna add a little pink to that. That's pretty. Okay, let's go to the green side of the thing and paint this background. I really, really like the center of this, and I don't want to ruin it. So you can lift out a little bit of that. Let's just kind of add a little bit of a highlight in there. I better leave it alone because I feel like I'm dangerously close to losing what I was loving. That is always an issue. Okay, I'm gonna at least let it dry and then maybe come back and do some more to it. I'm gonna flip this over and mix up some greens. I'm gonna start with this Hansa. And I think I'll go with, let's put a little Viridian in that. That's really a bright green. Isn't that pretty? And I want to utilize this yellow ochre. And let's put the Viridian with that and see what happens. That's a nice muted green. Go with the ultramarine blue. And how about quinacridone gold with that? I've got three very different greens that I can start with. I'm adding more of the blue. That's a very deep green. And then let's do, so how about the Viridian? I want a darker green. We're going to do the Viridian with some ultramarine to darken it. So I've got a nice cool color. I really like that. Nice cool green for some of the shadow areas, and I could also add a little bit of the burnt orange to that to get it even darker. So now I've got a good variety here. Let's see what happens when we get started with that. I'm going to start with this little guy here. And again, I'm going to try to stay away from some of those edges. Play up by darkening what might be under those petals. And then let's come in with some of the sunnier greens. Don't forget to use the whole brush. We've got the body of the brush and the tip of the brush, and you've got all kinds of options for creating line and strokes and marks on your paper. Don't limit yourself to just using one part. Okay, I really like that. Darken that even more. And I can drop in a little bit more of this green. It's really pretty. Okay, this time I'm going to start with the sunny green. and add in some of that more muted color. Let's get a little more of the yellow ochre with a little bit of the pearl red. And that I can come right along the edge of the leaf. Add a little of that here too. And those two touching is fine. It's a good idea to learn how to mix your own greens rather than having them straight from a tube. Gives you more options. All right, and let's go. I'm going to come up here into this petal and add my ultramarine blue. And Nicolezo yellow, I haven't used that one yet. Let's see what we get with that. It's very similar to quinacridone gold, but I've got a much, yeah, it's different. It's different. I've got a different green there, which is what I was going for. So I'm going to come under here. It is a similar color. It's got a similar look to it, but you know, mixing it with that ultramarine, you get a different color, and the separation is different too. I can already see it on my palette. So I'm going to come under here with some of that dark. And how about let's do the same over here. I'm going to leave a little tiny bit of an edge there. That's a little too similar, so I think I'm going to continue to add some of that darker value to give the illusion that this is a leaf that is under the rest of them. Alrighty, let's come over here. And actually I want to use some of the phthalo blue over here. And I don't know if you can see my palette, but I'm getting a pretty dark mixture, and I'm going to add some Payne's Gray to that blue, phthalo blue, and magenta petal. So I want it really dark. It's got to be really super dark to make this pop out. So there we go. Let's do that. A little negative painting there. And then while that's wet, I can drop in some of this color next to it. And they're going to fuse together. See how the value brings that forward, that flower forward. And these are still wet, so I'm just going to let that kind of fuse together. And how about we come over here, mix the phthalo and the ultramarine together, and we're going to start adding a little bit of blue up in here. Let the green kind of fuse into that. I'm going to pick up a little bit of that. It seems a little too dark. Okay, and we're going to come over here and work some of the greens in here. I want to get this wet. I don't want to do any of the detailed leaves, but I do want the green color in here, and I want some of the darks. I'm going to vary that up a little bit by adding a little bit of violet. Maybe there's some flowers back there we don't know about. There actually is flowers back there. Payne's gray, darken it up a little bit. And how about Payne's gray to the green? Get a really nice dark green. I actually really like some of that light. Do the Nicolezo yellow and bring some of that sunny color in by dropping in while it's still wet. And some sprinkles. Really like how that looks in there. And you like something, try not to overdo it because that's really tempting. See if little is good, maybe more will be better. Not always true, but I do like a little. Okay, look at that. I think that is really nice. So let's let it dry and we'll come back for the big reveal. And right before the big reveal, I decided, put that in there, to bring out this little tiny guy. This number 2, I think I figured it was. It's very small. It looks about like a 2, so very short handle. I want to add just the tiniest touches of dark detail in here. So I'm bringing in my small guy just to bring in, I do like how loose that looks in there, so I don't want to ruin that. But I want to add just a touch of darks to pop some of that color. And I'll just soften that up a bit and then we'll call it good. So there you go. We've got a really pretty simple flower that I've done here. And let's do the big reveal. Let me put this brush aside and this is really super fun. So here we go. You ready? Let's take the tape off. And I should maybe tape it all the way to the edge, but oh well. Just cleans it up. If I can get it up. Okay, there we go. All right, look at that. What do you guys think? It's great. It's beautiful, right? I hope that you enjoyed this video. Go out and try this for yourself. Sit out and enjoy the beautiful summer time weather and all the gorgeous foliage around. You can do a flower like this with more petals, you know, just as you practice and gain experience. Experiment with doing flowers with more layers in them and just observe. Just a good tip is to observe the light and shadow, observe how it grows, observe how the leaves are formed, and you will do well by just observing and practicing. So thanks for watching this video, you guys. Take care, happy painting, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.